Okay, so we're back here. Now we're on the back of the notes. This is part 2. Let's look at some examples here. Example number 1, find x and y. So they give us this picture. Now, they don't tell us anything about this segment in the middle. They don't tell us what it is. However, notice that the big triangle is isosceles. And this is what we call an altitude because it's 90 degrees. You know that in an isosceles triangle, when you drop in altitude, it's also going to be a median. It's going to bisect this base right here. So that tells us that these two measures have to be the same. If they're the same, 6x minus 12 equals 4x minus 5. That's a good equation right there. Now let's go ahead and solve it. Let's get the variables on the same side. We'll go minus 4x, and that gives us 2x minus 12 equals negative 5. We'll go plus 12, so 2x equals 7, divide by 2. Now actually we get a decimal, we get 3.5, or you can say 7 over 2. Both of those are good. Well, the question is though, are they really good? Let's go ahead and take a calculator. Let's just check it. If we plug it back in here, so let's go back to 6x minus 12. Let's do 6 times 3.5 and then minus 12. That gives us a value of 9. Now 4x minus 5 is 4 times 3.5 minus 12 gives us a value, 4 times 3.5 minus 5. I have to type this correctly. Also gives me 9. So what that tells me is that both of these are equal, which is what I thought it was. It means that this answer is good. One thing that you have to be careful about when you do this, 6x minus 12, 4x minus 5, those are side lengths. These do not add up to 180. They are not angle measures. Angle measures we would put on the inside, or we would put some kind of degree symbol here. So you have to be real careful with that. These are equal. They do not add to 180. Sides do not add to 180. Okay, now we also want to find 8x minus 3y degrees. That's an angle measure, and the arrow's pointing to here. Well, we actually know what that is. Because this segment is an altitude, if that's 90, then this degree here is also 90, because together these add up to 180. So 8x minus 3y is equal to 90. Here's my second equation. I'll put it up here. 8x minus 3y equals 90. Now you're thinking, this is a problem. We have two variables. No, we don't. We already know what x is. We found it, 3.5. So let's take 3.5 and let's substitute that for the x. 8 times 3.5 minus 3y equals 90. Now if you multiply that, you're going to get 28 minus 3y equals 90. We'll go minus 28 on both sides here. That gives us negative 3y is equal to 62. And the last step here, we'll divide by negative 3. Now again, this is not going to work out nicely. You're going to get a decimal. 62 divided by negative 3. Negative 20.6 repeating. Now what I can do, if I want to change it back to a fraction, I can hit the math button right below the green alpha key. Math. Number 1 is a fraction. Enter, enter, and we get negative 62 over 3. Okay, so I can say negative 62 over 3 or negative 20.6 repeating. Don't round it. Don't say negative 20.1. Don't say negative 20.7. We're going to write it like this. Now I'm a little bit skeptical that this is actually true, so let me plug it back into the equation. So 8 times x, we'll go back 8x, that was 8 times 3.5, minus 3 times, I'm going to type the fraction, which was negative 62 divided by 3. Does that give me 90? Yes. Okay, so it's not pretty, but there we go. Those are our answers, x and y. All right, let's take number 2. CD is an angle bisector in triangle ACB. Find x and the measure of angle B. Now they give us, let me separate this out a little bit. The key word here, or the key phrase, CD is an angle bisector. Here's CD. Angle bisector, that means it bisects this angle here, where the vertex is. So wherever the angle bisector starts from, this point, that's where it bisects. Now, bisect means the same, cuts in half, so these are congruent. That means that these measures, 11x plus 7 equals 14x minus 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the smaller variable, minus 11x. We get 7 equals 3x minus 2. We'll go plus 2. We get 9 equals 3x. Divide by 3. And x is equal to 3. Now before we congratulate ourselves, don't forget to answer the question or the statement. They say find x. Well, we got that. But they also say find the measure of angle B. Now you might have been thinking, well, this 20x degrees has nothing to do with these two angles, so am I going to use it? The answer is yes, now you are. You have to find x first. Now you can substitute and do 20 times 3. 20 times 3 is 60. So the measure of angle B equals 60 degrees. If you just put angle B, that's fine. You don't need the little m. And that's good. Okay, so there's 1 and 2. Now, the last thing here, number 3. This is a good problem. Okay, and you'll notice it in my class. I give you a lot of these where this is called coordinate geometry. This is where you're looking at points on a coordinate plane and you're looking at relationships. You have to put a lot of things together to do this. You have to understand concepts about slope, about midpoint, about distance, and how they apply to relationships. First thing they do, given triangle ABC, and they tell us the coordinates of A, B, and C. Well, let's go ahead and graph them. Now remember, all of these are x comma y. So negative 5 comma 6 is x is negative 5, y is positive 6, so we're up here. There's A. B is negative 1, negative 4. So B is negative 1 left, negative 4 down. And then C is 3 comma 2. 1, 2, 3 to the right, 2 up. There's C, 3 comma 2. And then we can connect this. It's probably best if you use a ruler or a straight edge. I will try to freehand it. Okay, not too bad. Part A, find the slope of the altitude from A. Well, you've got to understand what's an altitude. An altitude is perpendicular from a point to the opposite side. So if I were to draw this, the altitude from A would look something like this. This is not accurate, but it's going to have to be perpendicular, which means 90. Okay, so altitude means perpendicular. Perpendicular means 90 degrees. And they say find the slope. The slope of the altitude. Well, we've got a problem here. We don't know the coordinates of this point. My picture is not accurate. So if I want to do the slope formula, here's point A, but I don't have the coordinates of this point. So what can I do? Well, we know that perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. Okay, slope, opposite, I'll put op reciprocals when you have perpendicular lines. So if we knew the slope of BC, then we would know the altitude slope. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's take the slope of BC. Now you can use the formula. You've got m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You can do that, or we can just count. From B to C, I would rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I would run 1, 2, 3, 4. Rise, run. Rise is 6, run is 4, and that reduces to 3 over 2. Slope is not x comma y. It's y over x. So that's why I went up first and then I went right. Now that's the slope of BC. Okay, the slope of BC is 3 over 2. The slope of the altitude, the perpendicular slope, is the opposite reciprocal. That means I have to flip the fraction, makes it 2 over 3, and it becomes negative. It was positive, the perpendicular slope is negative. That's my answer. So you have to make a lot of connections. Altitude means perpendicular. Perpendicular tells you the slopes are opposite reciprocals, and then you have to find the slopes. Now part B, it says find the slope of the median from B. Median creates a midpoint. Now if it's from B, that means it starts at B and it goes to the midpoint of AC. So it would go, now I'm going to approximate, I don't know if this is accurate, something like that. It has to create a midpoint. So that's, I could call that M for my midpoint. Well, we want to find the slope of the median. This time we do need to find this ordered pair right here. We can do that using the midpoint formula. So midpoint, capital M, x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. We're doing the midpoint of AC of this segment. I'm not using the B here, not yet. So I'm going to label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So midpoint is add the x's, negative 5 plus 3 over 2, add the y's, 6 plus 2 over 2, and now we simplify. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2 over 2, comma, 8 over 2. And that gives us, that reduces to negative 1, comma, 4. Wow, okay, my picture was actually pretty good. Okay, I approximated this nicely. Now we're not done. This is the midpoint of AC. Midpoint of AC. Find the slope of the median. Now that I've found this point, negative 1, 4, now I can find the slope of MB. Okay, so M was negative 1, 4, that was the midpoint, and then B was negative 1, negative 4. So x1, y1, x2, y2. Let me do the slope formula. Come down here. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now I'm subtracting. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. This is negative 1 minus a negative 1. Minus a negative, both of those become positives. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Okay, now I get confused by this. Negative 8 divided by 0 is, oh, error, divide by 0. We can't do that. So what we say is the slope is undefined. That would be the slope of the median. Okay? Undefined. And actually, if I had recognized, let me go back to my median. This is why I draw it. Do you see that this is a vertical line? The slope of a vertical line is always undefined. Okay, so those are the connections that we made. That is the end of the notes.